Good evening. I'm Crane Durham. This is Nothing But Truth. I come to you tonight nearly a month after nearly 1,500 people were killed in Israel in the most despicable ways. On October 7th, 240 people, including women and children, were also kidnapped. This attack was claimed by the terrorist group and government of Gaza, Hamas. Since then, we have seen a very strong show of support on America's universities and big city rallies for Israel. Wait, no, for Hamas. For Hamas. That can't be right. Well, it's for the Palestinian people. And they're going after Israel and saying Israel is the belligerent, the oppressor. Well, how is that? That means that was a terrorist attack in the most brutal ways possible, even including putting babies in ovens, for heaven's sake. And there are protests against Israel chanting a genocidal chant from the river to the sea, which would mean the extinction of Israel. We've also seen a major uptick in the already dramatic numbers of hate crimes against Jews. You say, wait a second, I didn't know Jews were at the head of the hate crime list. They are the most targeted, and it has increased 400%. I know many of you sit in absolute disgust and anger and frustration when you turn on the television and you see so many people who are just so wrong. First and foremost, yes, I have an obligation to pray for them. But there are more obligations that we have. I remember reading about the Holocaust and wondering, how did Germany ever get that far? And through great teachers like Bruce Thornton of the Hoover Institute and his book on appeasement, I certainly understood it, how certain things came in place and the system was used. And yet I thought, how could people ever abide the treatment of Jews in this manner? So the idea was never again. Sounds familiar? Never again. Certainly our generation, Generation X and beyond, would understand the horrors of the Holocaust, understand that we would never let this happen again. And yet, modern day Nazi organization Hamas is putting out videos that are propaganda and falsely attribute the amount of deaths from Israeli strikes on Hamas in Gaza. And people are going to Israel saying, we need a ceasefire because you're killing too many civilians. Hamas has made it a practice and even bragged about the fact that they use civilians as human shields. And they put their terrorist leaders and targets and organizations and military and arsenals and networks in civilian areas in order to increase the deaths of civilians. And on college campuses in our big cities, we hear from the river to the sea. God help us. This is something where American Jews are afraid to go out in public and be identified as Jews. I am sure, like me, you have friends who've experienced this in some capacity, and you are just as disgusted as I am. Businesses have been attacked. This is not one where we can just sit out. All right? Let me make this real clear. You're either with us or you're with Hamas. That's what it is. With Israel or you're with Hamas. With the free world or with Hamas. It's October 7th, and you're with that and supporting that, or you're not, and you're for ending it. President Bush was oftentimes mocked for the way he would make things, well, not complex. He wouldn't intellectualize it enough. When he said these words on September 20th, 2001, he was speaking very plainly about what we faced after 9/11. And by the way, the decision has not changed. Here is President Bush.
Either you are with us or you are with the terrorists. From this day forward, any nation that continues to harbor or support terrorism will be regarded by the United States as a hostile regime. There's no negotiations. There's no cap.
And it goes on. I'll be posting more of that on the website as well as the Facebook, as I call it. But President Bush understood the difference between good and evil. He understood that we were fighting in an area where they supported the strong horse over the weak horse. He actually read what bin Laden said in his letters. And he understood that. And that's why he went ahead with the surge. And you say, Crane, it's not about Iraq. No, it is not about specifically Iraq. However, it is what undergirds this discussion. It is the foundation of America being leader of the free world. This is about good and evil. And while there are people who would sit back and abide this kind of behavior and say, well, it really doesn't impact me. Maybe they really do have a point. I mean, innocent Palestinians are being killed, but that's the elected government of the Palestinians is Hamas. And yes, it's a military and awful regime. So we want to support those people. But first and foremost, we must understand that any death in Gaza from Israel attacking militarily is on Hamas. Hamas could end this today, right now. Release the hostages, unconditional surrender, bye-bye. Human nature does not change. Some people understand that in America and make policies based on that. I spoke earlier in the previous video about emotion ruling the day, and it is emotional. If you see those pictures, you can't get them out of your head, just like I can't get Nick Berg out of my head or others who have been killed by Islamic terrorists that I've seen when I've been covering these events daily during that war. And I'm speaking to the Iraq War and Afghanistan. And I was in a comfortable studio in St. Louis doing it, or Tupelo, Mississippi. And I must tell you, it stays with you, and it should. Because we need to understand what we're fighting against, not for the emotion that we have afterwards, wanting to obliterate those who would commit these heinous acts and celebrate them, Not for that emotion, but for the understanding of what we are facing. Reason, understand what it takes to end this organization, because there's no middle road with Hamas or ISIS or other Islamic terrorist organizations. They must be defeated, extinguished, and obliterated, decimated, and humiliated, and put in the dustbin of history. So many times I'll be giving a monologue and I'll throw in some jokes or something along those lines, but this is not funny. This is me coming to you and asking you to stand with Israel. If you see a business that is being attacked or somehow targeted by the insane left, then stand up, go to that business. If there is a place on campus where you are and they say, well, it's unsafe for Jews to go here, well, then go to that place, make a statement. And shame on the administrators that would cave to that and not take the opportunity to show you will not allow this to happen here in the United States of America, 2023. If you have friends that are Jewish, I encourage you to reach out, because I'm sure they can share with you the feelings that they have. Because this has happened before. And now it's our call to answer never again. So President Biden, don't go wobbly. Don't go soft, and don't call for a pause for humanitarian effort when you know, as well as the free world understands, anybody who's really tuning in, not the people that have been indoctrinated with this nonsense of oppressor versus oppressed. You know the facts. And this is not an 80-20 deal. It's 100% zero. Israel's right. Hamas is wrong. Stand with Israel. Tell me what you think. Oh, and I would love to debate this on a college campus. I hear they're actually welcoming debate now because they want voices to be heard. Shame, for the last decade, they haven't. And they've made it a place where people can't speak their minds, because if they do, they're going to be called an is or ism or something, or going to be attacked physically. But if you want to have the debate on Israel, let's do it. And arm yourself with the truth. We are fighting not only for Israel, we are fighting for the free world and our society. Don't let us become a fear-based society. It's up to us. Use the lawful ways to fight back. I'll be giving a video a little later this week on at least 5 ways you can take action and support Israel. Thank you. God loves you. He created you, and you're worth it. May you live with honor in your life, compassion in your heart, and always, always keep the faith. God bless America. God bless Israel. And God bless the people of the United States.